Right. So yes, any other thoughts? Anyone who wants to say something or should?
Mind can be our enemy as well as our friend.
Okay, so everything from Bhagavad Gita, I think people have already studied. And right. So yes, everyone, I think all the thoughts were pretty bang on. Mind is all of that you explained. There are different aspects which you guys touched upon. Uh, right now, we will also kind of touch upon all those aspects when we move on. But let's at a basic level think of the mind as a thought manufacturing machine, right? So it's basically something which is generating thoughts at all times. In a typical day, for a regular person, he can have close to 60,000, or if someone is really in anxiety, can have up to, or a very hyperactive brain can have up to 1.5 lakh different thoughts, from 60,000 to 1.5 lakh thoughts in a day. Imagine, right? Those many number of thoughts. Sorry. So, okay, if people can be on mute if they are not wanting to speak. Yeah. Okay. So that's the mind. It's constantly generating thoughts, right? And imagine if you have to deal with even say close to 10,000 things in a day, right? Just think how will you manage? It's impossible for someone to actually look at 10,000 different things. We say it, "Kya re, mere paas 10,000 cheezein karne ke liye," right? But that is like an exaggeration. That's not literally something that we are dealing with 10,000 things in a day. But the mind actually deals with much more. The number of thoughts that cross the mind in a day is much more. It's six times at least, right? Close to 60,000 for a regular person. So it's very difficult. And of course, then we have to prioritize. And that's how we are able to function. That we are able to focus the mind on things that are important, that are urgent, right? That we need to address, or we think we should address, right? So that's how we are able to function. If we start meditating or pondering upon each and every thought that we get, we'll be just constantly thinking only. We won't be able to do anything, right? So it's basically a thought manufacturing machine which is generating thoughts left, right, and center, right? So let's look at right there. Like I said, there are so many thoughts that are going through our mind, and if we do not control the mind, right, either by a lack of focus, that we're not able to focus on things which are important and needed to be done, or if we are focusing on some wrong things, right? So at that point in time, the mind is uncontrolled. And what can it do to you? What can an uncontrolled mind do to you? So there could be depression, right? There could be stress, hypertension, damage to one's own self-esteem, damage to the self, damage to the society, right? People take to intoxication because they cannot handle the mental activity. They cannot handle the amount of stress that they go through, right? It leads to a lot of dangerous diseases, right? Lack of trust, lack of confidence, all these things, right, are caused because of the disturbed mind, right? The mind is disturbed, everything else starts to fall apart, right? So and what do you think? So this is the mind, what it can do to you. What do you think it can do to others? Any thoughts around that?
Sorry, could you repeat the question?
What does an uncontrolled mind, we just saw a slide where we have uncontrolled mind, what can it do to you?
Yes.
I'm asking question,
Mhm.
what can your uncontrolled mind do to others?
It could hurt others
Yes.
and make people around you unhappy.
Yes, Shelza.
Sir, I wanted to say is the same thing, that it can hurt, and it can create an environment where everyone is unhappy.
Have you seen examples? Any particular examples?
Yes, sir. So when we can't control our mind, thinking, without knowing it, just assuming that, this person meant something like this,
Hmm.
and we get into an argument. So the argument is not only affecting me, it is also affecting, with whom I'm arguing with. So it is creating an imbalance between both of us.
Right. So you can also answer if you've seen some other people with an uncontrolled mind, how they are, you know, what the uncontrolled mind of someone else is doing to people in general or the society.
So it strains a relationship as well.
Yes.
And also the environment in the house goes for a toss. If a person is under depression or hypertension because he or she is only crying and shouting, and that creates a very bad environment and sets in a very bad example even to children.
Right. Okay. So yes, we are thinking right now, and that these are very, very good examples. We are thinking right now of our immediate surroundings and people. Let's look at a slightly broader picture here when it comes to society or even countries for that matter. What does an uncontrolled mind can do to others?
I think the effect just reverberates. It, the ripples, if it starts right from your home, then it could uh, affect the society, uh, and eventually the whole world. Uh, Probably we are amidst one such example right now. That's that's how I would want to put it.
Okay, interesting. So, what can it do to others, right? Uh, I think some years back, uh, I think some, I think 1998, 99, I don't know when it was. There was a news actually. Uh, so this person, he was watching India and Pakistan match, right? And India lost. And this person could not tolerate. He actually uh, banged his daughter's head into the television. Can you imagine? Right? Took her, banged her into the television set. She died, of course. So that to that extent, right? An uncontrolled mind can cause damage, right? And all that you see around, whatever you read in your newspapers, suicides, prostitution, rape, right? A person drunk on the street, lying in the gutter, right? Somebody quarreling, even countries fighting with each other, terrorists attacking. These are all effects of uncontrolled mind, nothing else, right? All problems, the root is uncontrolled mind. Therefore, it said, if you win your mind, you can win the world, which means that if you control the mind, you can do anything, right? And for those who not control the mind, they are just a havoc. They're causing havoc everywhere in their own lives plus outside, right? So, can the mind be our friend? Is it possible
Yes,
for the mind to be
yes,
our
sir.
friend? Okay. So, a knife, is it good or bad?
So both, nothing is good and bad. It is harmful or helpful.
I think it depends on the perspective, how you're looking at it.
Right. So, the knife, sorry, these are like 1990s animations and sound effects. Okay. So, the knife in the hand of a murderer, of course, is very, very dangerous. But an even sharper knife in the hand of a surgeon can actually save a life. So, very rightly put, that it depends on the use. It depends on the person who's also handling, right? So, similarly, the mind depends on how we uh, control the mind or handle the mind, right? It can be our friend or it can be our worst enemy. As Krishna describes this, for whom, for him who has conquered the mind is the best of friends. But for one who has failed to do so, his mind will remain the greatest enemy. Right? So imagine that you have to do something but you've not controlled the mind. It'll drag you to all different kinds of things. But for one who's actually controlled the mind has become his friend, right? So it's almost like, there's a hill, right? For someone to actually do what he wants with an uncontrolled mind, it's an uphill task. It's almost like, pushing a 1,000-kilo stone up the hill. It's very, very difficult, right? No matter how hard you try, right? There'll be some slips here and there. Whereas for someone who has, controlled the mind, it becomes his best friend, which means now it's a downhill path. You have to just, simply touch the stone and it'll go rolling down, which means that the mind is now interested to do what you're interested to do. So obviously, it'll give you so much impetus, and with great speed, you'll be able to achieve what you want to achieve. So the nature of the mind is, if it's uncontrolled, right, it'll be your greatest enemy. If it's controlled, it'll be your greatest friend, right? The mind is also like a recorder. It records. So basically, like someone was saying, that it allows you to think, etc. Right? So all the senses, seeing, hearing, etc., they give all the input to the mind, and mind records all these impressions. It's like a recorder, right? So there was a student, we were giving a seminar in one of the colleges, and after the session, we spoke about mind a little bit. After the session, this person, he walks up to me and he says, the session is really great. Thank you so much. Can you help me? I need some more guidance. I'm like, yes, why not? So he says that I find it very, very difficult to, focus and, concentrate on my studies. So I asked him, okay, what all you do? So this person, he was into a lot of hobbies. So he used to, like adventure sports. He would go out, camping with his friends, and he would do all sorts of, outdoor activities, etc. And pretty engaging hobbies, to put it simply. So then I said, okay, when you do all of that, right? There are so many things he was interested in. So when do you study? So he said, okay, I'm actually working, and I take 1 month sabbatical so that I can focus and give my exams. So I said, okay, then what's the problem? You're working throughout the year. You're also doing some of your activities of your interest. And then 1 month when you're studying, what is the problem? So you have 1 month, you can study. So like that is the problem. When I sit to study in that 1 month, I'm not able to concentrate at all. Right? So, like I said, the mind is a recorder. So when the mind gets anything uninteresting to do, right? When you start reading something which is slightly boring, and of course studies, for someone who's busy, trekking or surfing, etc., or being with friends in the outdoors, etc., for him obviously studying is something boring. So as soon as the mind gets something which is not so interesting, not so lucrative, not instant gratification, right, the mind basically switches off. It's not actively involved in that activity anymore, and it starts playing the recorder in the mind, right? So the recorder starts playing back, right? So the person can be stuck on the same page for like 40 minutes, not not go beyond a paragraph, and he'll be in his own world thinking of what he did, when he went to Goa, what he did when he went to, Shimla, etc., all of those things. So that is exactly what this boy's problem is, right? So it's very, very important, if you want to control the mind, it's very important what we feed the mind, right? What we feed the mind, so that even when it plays back, we can still get the mind back and focus on whatever is important. So it's very important. Garbage in, garbage out. If you feed the mind wrong things throughout the year, you cannot expect to be focused in that 1 month. And therefore especially children, when they're in the at the age of learning, they're sent to Gurukul, right? Away from all different kinds of distractions, they're sent to Gurukul to be trained under the Acharya. The entire culture or the environment is such, it's very, very conducive for learning, right? And they are not given, very comfortable state. Chalo, holiday mana ke aao. In fact, the idea of Gurukul was to train them in a way that they can handle anything. So they were actually living in a very, very austere condition. To live in a jungle is not simple, right? Right now we would have some resorts, etc. But in those days, they used to live in jungle, simple, right? So it was very, very, even the sons of the kings, right? They would go and get training in the Gurukul. Why? Because uh, once they've seen, they are trained to live so humbly, right? Once they're trained to, live with a bare basics and, gather everything for themselves and, do everything by themselves, they're ready for anything. So even if, say, for example, in today's time, someone, actually is coming from a Gurukul training, he becomes a billionaire, right? And suddenly the next day, after he loses everything, that person won't be broken like any one of us. In terms of internally, he won't be broken because he would think, okay, I built an empire, I lost it. I'm already used to living in a very humble situation as well. I'm trained for that. So even if it comes to, again going back to a very humble situation, he will be prepared for it, right? But for any one of us, if tomorrow we were to lose our house, right, we will just, maybe die out of a heart attack, right? So it's very, very important how we train the mind or what we feed the mind. And thereby, this is the first step, we can actually control the mind, right? So it's like a recorder. What you feed will start playing back when anything is uninteresting, right? So if you give a kid right a book to read, he may not be finding it so interesting. He will find it difficult to concentrate. If you give him a video game, right? तभी कोई concentration का issue नहीं होता है. You never heard, child complaining, I cannot concentrate on the video game, right? Because it's interesting to the mind, so he is engrossed. So there are three stages the mind goes through, right? Thinking, feeling, and willing. Now let's understand this through an example. Anyone here who's been to Juhu Beach? Please raise your hands. Okay, Kasturi. Let's take your example. Right. So, what is your favorite dish? You eat something at Juhu Beach, right? When you go, or you never taken anything?
Not really.
Not really. Okay. Anyone who's gone there to eat?
Yeah, pav bhaji,
Who was that? Sorry,
disha.
Disha. Okay, pav bhaji. So, uh, that's your favorite, right? At Juhu Beach?
Yeah, that and pani puri.
Pani puri. Okay. So let's take the example of pani puri, right? So imagine Kasturi, you're passing by in a vehicle, going to a particular destination, and you're just about to cross Juhu Beach. And as soon as you understand that, oh, I'm about to cross Juhu Beach, right? The thought comes, pani puri, right? Because that's your immediate association with Juhu Beach, right? Because someone who's like going regularly to eat pani puri, that's like immediate association for uh, Juhu Beach. Okay, so the thought comes pani puri, right? That's the thinking stage. Thought came, right? Then you start meditating on that thought. Oh, last time I had it was so nice. The right amount of khatta, and that meetha chutney was so good. And that specific pani puri wala, he knows exactly how I like it.
Okay,
Wow.
my mouth has started watering already.
Exactly. So that's the feeling stage, right? You're feeling it. You're literally as if the pani puri is in your mouth,
Yeah.
right? That's the feeling stage. And finally, the willing stage, right? You will stop your vehicle. The mind will jump and say, "I want pani puri right now," right? And what will happen is you'll say कि अरे ठीक है मेरे को वो important काम है थोड़ा time रुक के करते हैं. You stop the vehicle, or you'll ask if you're going in a public transport, you stop the vehicle, rickshaw वाले बोले रुक जाओ, let me get off, right? And the hands and legs have to agree to walk up to the pani puri guy, right? and you will pull out the money and give it to him, and he will make the pani puri and he'll eat it, right? So thinking, feeling, and willing, right? These are three stages. So Lord Krishna describes that you have to control the mind. You have to stop the mind at the thinking stage, right? You have to stop the mind at the thinking stage. If it goes beyond the thinking stage, feeling pe chala gaya, gone. You will be dragged to do what the mind dictates. Then you won't be having enough control, right? If the thought comes, simple, you replace the thought with something else, right? If the thought comes pani puri, oh, that is, my exam is arrived, that's more important, let me go, right? Immediately, you replace the thought with something more positive and more reinforce it with something even further, right? That's how you can control your mind. If you allow the mind to meditate and get onto the feeling stage, you'll be dragged to you'll have to serve the dictation of the mind essentially, right? So and how can you do that, right? How is it really possible to stop the mind in the thinking stage?
That's challenging, I would say.
Challenging, yes. So there is where the other factor comes in, which is our intelligence. So this is the mechanism of the mind. I'll come to how to do that. It's a mechanism of the mind, right? So this is the mind, which is storehouse of all thoughts, unfulfilled desires, previous experiences, and impressions, right? It's getting inputs from all our senses, right? But there is another factor called intelligence, right? Which is the decision maker, right? So the mind will propose a lot of things, right? And it'll try to control and dictate to get its own way, right? But we have another element in our subtle body called intelligence, right? Which is the decision maker, which understands, okay, this is the input, this will be the result. Basis that it can analyze, it can discriminate what to do, what not to do, what is right, what is wrong, correct? So and there is always a tug of war between the mind and intelligence, right? The mind will say one thing and the intelligence will say the other thing, right? Just like so, just to give you an example, right? Uh, let's see, who can we? Anyone else? Okay, say Amit, right? We took his example, botany student, right? Okay, so Amit, he's studying for his exams, right? Late in the night, he's struggling very hard and trying to finish the portion, you know. And the next, sorry, he's studying throughout the day. He's been studying since morning. Throughout the day, he's been studying. It's evening time, and tomorrow's the exam. And Amit, who's your best friend?
Aditya.
Aditya calls him. Hey Amit, what are you doing? Are naya picture laga hai, let's go, right? So Amit is like, no, I have an exam. What are you saying? I cannot. Arey chalna yaar, it'll be nice refreshment for mind. You've been studying already, right? Kal exam hai, aaram se de dena. The mind immediately jumps, right? The mind will say, yes, right? We worked so hard, from since yesterday, since whole morning. मैंने खाना भी कम खाया just because I'm constantly reading. I'm constantly trying to, mug this whatever complete my portion, and we've worked so hard. He'll try to appease you in so many ways that we work so hard. We deserve a break, right? Mind will say we deserve a break, so let's go, right? So mind is like very very happy. अरे चलो अभी picture देखने मिलेगा, right? Then immediately the intelligence, no, wait, right? Kal exam, right? We cannot go for a movie. We'll forget what you've learned, and there won't be any more time to study more and give the exam. What are you doing? नहीं नहीं नहीं, अरे कोई नहीं, रिफ्रेश होके आ करके फिर पूरा रात भर बैठ के पढ़ेंगे, and tomorrow we'll give the exam and we'll top it. So the intelligence is नहीं नहीं, पिछली बार भी same चीज बोला था. And you know what happened. right? So there is always a tug of war between the mind and the intelligence, right? And who wins? Amit, who wins?
Mind, mind, most of the time.
Yes,
90%.
90% of the time the mind wins, right? Why? Because our intelligence is not strong enough, right? Our intelligence is not. So it's like you know, ब्रूस ली के अगेंस्ट मैंने एक पतले से आदमी को खड़ा कर दिया लड़ने के लिए, right? Bruce Lee will just two karate chops and gone. That's our situation, right? The mind versus the intelligence. So if we want, and if the mind wins, you will have some instant gratification, but in the long run, it'll be misery. In the long run, it'll always be harmful for you. If the intelligence win, it's like poison in the beginning. You'll find, अरे ये क्या कर रहा हूँ मैं? Right? I'm not listening to my heart, right? People say, oh, I have to listen to my heart, right? That's not really the heart. It's actually your mind, which is trying to control you, right? A lot of times, most of the times rather. So
It's sort of like medicine then.
sorry.
It is sort of like medicine then. It's sort of bitter, but then it's good for you.
Yes, exactly. So if you listen to the intelligence, it's bitter in the beginning. It's almost like you're tasting poison. I'm missing out on so many things. But in the long run, it'll be nectar. Right? In the long run, you will have you'll achieve what you wanted to achieve. Right? So it's very, very important that we let the intelligence win. And how do we do that? By making the intelligence very strong. So how will you make it strong? What is the food for intelligence?
Seek knowledge, I would say. Always be on the quest for knowledge.
Yes.
That's food
So,
for mind and intelligence, your brain basically.
yes. Perfect. So food for intelligence is knowledge, right? And not any knowledge, because all material kinds of knowledge will definitely give you a lot of intelligence, but right, it won't make you strong in character, right? So food for intelligence is actually spiritual knowledge, because that'll help you build a character, and you can actually live on certain principles. There's a famous quote by one of the senior members and sannyasis of ISKCON. He was saying, if you don't have a good enough reason to die for, you have nothing worth living for, right? If you don't have a great enough cause to die for, you're not having enough to live. You're not really having something worth to live for, right? You don't have anything good in your life to pursue in that case. So that's how there's a tug of war between the mind and intelligence. So Bhagavad Gita describes, and it's very, very difficult to the mind to control the mind, actually, like someone was mentioning, right? So Lord Krishna said, "Oh mighty arm, son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it's possible by suitable practice and detachment." So Arjuna, in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, after hearing Ashtanga Yoga, he said, the way you described for me to control the mind, it's impossible, right? Imagine Arjuna in Dwapar Yuga, who's a friend of Krishna, who's also known as Gudakesh. Gudakesh means someone who's conquered sleep. So Arjuna, he used to actually practice at night. After everyone slept, he would still be awake and he would practice at night shooting arrows. So he was given the title Gudakesh, someone who's conquered sleep. Now, such a person, right? He's saying it's very, very difficult because the mind is obstinate, right? Turbulent. And it's easier for me to control the wind by my 2 hands, but it's very, very difficult to control the mind. I think I'll come the next shloka maybe. Sorry, I'll come to that. So Krishna is then giving Arjuna the formula to control the mind. O mighty arm, son of Kunti, it's undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and detachment, right? So what is the practice and what is the detachment? So detachment is vairagya, practice is abhyas, right? This is 6.35. So let's see what is the abhyas and what is the vairagya. So Vairagya means there are 4 regulative principles of freedom, right? Now, regulative principles means you have to, keep a check on these 4 things, right? And why is it called, if there is regulation, why is it called regulative principles of freedom, right? If I'm regulating and controlling something, where is the question of freedom? Does that question come to your mind? Right? So if I'm putting so many rules and regulations or control, right? Freedom kahan raha?
When you know the rules and then you can bend them.
Yes, that will work with all the rules set by our government, our all these. But in the absolute system of the Lord, or the nature's laws and rules, no matter how hard you try to cut corners, you won't be able to. Yes. So have you so someone may complain ki, "Arey, okay, let's first see what are the rules and regulations and then come to this example." So these are the 4 regulative principles of freedom, right? No non-vegetarian food, right? Including meat, fish, eggs, seafood. No intoxication, alcohol, drugs, tobacco, pan masala, even tea and coffee is considered a mild intoxicant. Gambling, which includes bets, etc., lotteries, and so many other things. Illicit sex, which means extramarital affairs and discussions and jokes and movies, etc. Right? Now, now, if you take this list to anyone, and maybe some of you might be also thinking, "Are ye nahi karenge to kya karenge?" Right? How will we live? And that's actually one of the reactions. When I started Krishna consciousness as a 12-year-old boy, so I had a lot of friends, and there were some friends who were like 16, 18, 20, and I had stopped associating with some of them, slowly, because I knew, like, being in their association, I'll be gone in some other direction. So once someone asked me, one of them asked me, he, "Tu karta kya hai?" What explain me what exactly it is. So I explained a few things. I was also very naive at that point in time. So I also spelled out the 4 regulative principles for him, and he said, "Arey, ye nahi karenge to jiyenge kaise?" Right? How do you live? What will you do in life if you don't do these 4 things? Right? So these 4 things are actually poison for our consciousness. It's poison, literally poison for our consciousness. Right? And there are 4 principles of dharma, right? Which is basically ahimsa, which means non-violence, right? And cleanliness, which exact opposite is illicit sex. Truthfulness, which you break in gambling, and austerity, which you break in intoxication. So if someone is taking intoxication, uh, right, उनको लत लग जाता है, and they're not able to do austerities because early, say, just simple tea and coffee का भी example ले लो, right? So if you have to say, for example, fast or sit in meditation or do any kind of austerity, right? In the spiritual practice, your brain will be pounding. I need tea. I need tea. I need tea. Right? And without that, your day doesn't start. Right? Even forget austerity. Even doing your regular work, people are not able to function without a cup of coffee or tea. Right? And that's how we become slaves of these things. Right? So how is it for regulatives of principles of freedom? Freedom kahan bacha, ye sab nahi karna hai. Right? So we are not saying no to good things. We are not saying ki, kaju badam mat khao. We are saying, right, no to terrible things which are actually breaking the 4 pillars of dharma. And why? How is it freedom? Because once you do that, right, and you would have seen, even without reading Bhagavad Gita, even without going through any such course, there are people who are realizing this on a practical level, and there are so many celebrities turning vegan, and it's a huge trend these days. If you even Hollywood and Bollywood right now, right, because people are realizing that they are actually ruining their own health. Plus, even to a extent that many of them are staying away from intoxication. Of course, we hear a lot of drug cases also, but There are many who are, for their own fitness, they are staying away from intoxication, right? So these things are actually very, very poisonous. And how is it freedom? So just like, someone will complain कि नहीं ये सब नहीं करेंगे तो क्या करेंगे. So just like uh, you know uh, gas, right? LPG gas, right? So it's put in a you know in a metal bottle, right? वो cylinder आता है ना, cylinder के अंदर, right? It's put inside a cylinder in a very, very tight controlled environment, right? And through a very tiny regulator, it's let out. It's in a liquid form inside the cylinder, and through a very regulated tiny pipe, right? You let it out. So when it's regulated, the gas has tremendous amount of use in terms of you can use it for cooking, etc. But if it's not regulated, अरे हमको तो freedom चाहिए, क्यों इतने सारे rules, right? Just let the gas loose. What will happen? Right? One matchstick and entire house will be on fire, right? So that's what non-regulated or unregulated thing can do to us. So if we crave for a freedom, no restrictions, that's not really, that's not something that will work for you. If you regulate your, and Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita how our habits, our sleep, our activities should be regulated. Yeah, Yuktahara Vihara, he describes in the 6th chapter, right? How if we regulate our life, we'll be, completely happy. We'll be free from miseries. So some amount of regulation, right? And all of this, right? If you are following the 4 regulative principles, right, and not doing any of these things, you are classified in the eyes of scripture as a human being. It's just to come up to the level of human being, right? Because what is civilized human being? Which means that someone who's actually regulated in his behavior and not doing things indiscriminately, not doing things randomly, right? So a person who's regulated himself like this, according to scriptures, is a human being, right? Otherwise, we are dvipad pashu, 2-legged animal. Right? So how do we control the mind, right? To do all of this, that may seem impossible for a lot of us, right? Even when I used to eat non-vegetarian food earlier, and my sister, she had given up before me, and I used to tease her, "Ghas khane wali," right? But then when I actually studied Bhagavad Gita, I understood that how these things are so poisonous, right? I decided to give up, and it just took me a day to decide, and the next day I had stopped. And the reason I could do that was because I was introduced before that to a practice called mantra meditation, right? So what is mantra meditation? What does the word mantra means? Mantra means manaha and tra. It's it's divided into two words, manaha and tra. It's a combination of these two words. So manaha means mind, and tra means trayate. Trayate means that which delivers, right? Trayate means to deliver. So that which delivers the mind is called as mantra. Manaha trayate iti mantra, right? That which controls the mind or delivers the mind is known as mantra. So how it works, right? So imagine, I'll just explain this through a quick story. So there was this person who had just seen the movie Aladdin, and he was very fascinated. I was like, "Arey, apne ko ek chirag mil jaye na bas. I'll be so happy. I'll wish this, I'll wish that, right? Ek chirag mil jaye, life settled, right?" So he was thinking, "Kahan se milega chirag? Ek chirag mil jaye," because he was so fascinated with the movie Aladdin. So then somebody said, "Oh, you should go and try it. Meet some sadhus here and there, and maybe they would have something." So he started searching. He approached a very well-known sadhu. He approached, and he said, "Sir, please, मेरे को एक जीनी चाहिए, right? कैसे भी करके दे दो." Right? So the sadhu said, "Okay, no problem. I have something for you." But and he pulled out a lamp, which looked exactly like the lamp he saw in the movie. So he's very excited. Hey, this is looking exactly the same thing. So like he gave him the lamp, like, if you rub him, movie mein dekha na, genie niklega, right? So, but he said, there is only one problem with this genie. So he said, what is the problem? So he said, you have to keep him engaged, right? You have to, keep wishing. The minute you're not able to ask something of the genie to do, it'll eat you. So like, no problem. I have a very big list, right? इतने सारे desires हैं. Don't worry. It's छोटा मोटा चीज है, कुछ नहीं है. I'll take this. So he happily, took the lamp and very excitedly he went home and rubbed the lamp. The genie came out like, yes, master, how should I serve? Right? Tell me what to do. So he said, oh, actually, I want a, very big palatial bungalow right next to Juhu Beach. So the genie goes immediately within, half an hour, he creates a nice bungalow and like, sir, it's ready, please go. What next? Tell me what next. It's like, oh, I want actually a Ferrari car, a BMW car, a Porsche, a Jaguar, and he goes on with a list of different cars. So within no time, the genie basically arranges all the cars and it's all, parked in the palace. So what next? Oh, I want to eat Italian, I want to eat Chinese, I want to eat Mughlai, and he names all the different kind of dishes. And the genie arranges a big feast, for him. And he starts eating. And like this, he goes on and on and on asking different things. And within no time, the genie is fulfilling all of them. So after some time, after literally the entire day of asking so many things, right? This person is exhausted. Like, "ठीक है, अभी बहुत हो गया," right? Like there's so many things. I've asked hundreds of things already, right? So the genie then said, "Please tell me what next to do." So this person said, "नहीं, अभी कुछ नहीं है." So genie said, "You better tell me something, otherwise I'll eat you," right? So like, oh, okay. Uh, uh, what to do? What to do? Go paint the entire city red. So the genie went, and this guy went out to sleep. Like, genie को time लगेगा, चलो. So the next morning, genie was ready. वो थोड़ा paint लगा था उसकी body पे. बोला, "Sir, I painted the entire city red. What next?" So like he's a little scared, right? Like थोड़ा गड़बड़ हो गया है, तो मतलब it's difficult to handle. How do I? Oh, okay, just do the laundry of everybody in the city. सबका laundry करके. So again he goes, washes everyone's clothes, and in no time, in a few hours, he's back. Tell me what's next. So again he's like, "Arey, abhi kya batao," right? And genie is like, "Come on, tell me something, otherwise I'm ready to eat you." No, wait. And under pressure, he's not able to think anything. But tell me now, I am ready to eat you. Oh, wait. And he starts running. He's running. And goes to the sadhu, finally reaches him. "Please tell me, please save me from this genie. What to do with him?" Right? He's about to eat me. Please tell me, क्या कुछ उपाय बताओ, कैसे इससे छुटकारा पाऊं? Right? So the sadhu says, "Okay, fine, I will help you." Right? And he whispers something in his ear. And now the genie is just behind him, and this person, as a chati choda karke, "Okay, no problem, out." Right? He heard something from the sage. So the genie said, "Do you have something for me? Otherwise, I'll eat you." Like, "Yes, I have something very, very important for you." So the genie is like, "What?" So he says, "Get a ladder." Right? So he immediately brings a ladder, and he says, "Go up, go down, go up, go down, go up, go down. Continue doing this till I give you the next order." So this genie is nothing but our mind, right? Which is ready to eat you the minute it's idle, right? So what is the solution to control this genie? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Right? So, mantra meditation, right? Through that, whenever we find time, let's not keep the genie idle, otherwise it will eat you. So, be engaged in this mantra meditation. That's the stairs, right? So we go even in our mala, we go ahead, we go backwards, we go ahead, backwards. So it's like climbing and coming down. So if you keep the mind engaged like this, you'll be able to control it. So okay, this is the yesterday's presentation. We'll come on to the today's topic. Any questions till now? Sorry, 5:15. Okay. Any questions? Any comments? Any reflections till now? And yeah, yes, Sylvie.
So this was about the difference of the body and soul, and of course, the mind was also included. So
Yes.
coming back to when Lord Krishna was telling Arjuna about this in the middle of the wall. So
Yes.
how can this thing, this one point, we can implement? I mean, we can understand in that particular situation, in that particular scenario.
Yes. So let me rephrase your question so that I'm sure that I understand your question what you're asking. So you're saying how could Arjuna apply this teaching in the middle of the battlefield of the mind, how to control the mind? Okay. So why was Arjuna lamenting?
Because he had his relatives on the other side and he couldn't
Correct.
kill them.
Correct. And his mind was jumping and telling, how can you do any of these things, right? Compassion, right? No enjoyment. So the mind was giving all sorts of arguments. Even that happens with us, right? When you want to do something, it is the right thing. For Arjuna, who's a Kshatriya, and Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita then explained, in different ways that how being a Kshatriya it was his duty, right? How in terms of karma yoga you should act for the sake of doing your duty. On one end, he also explained if you act as per your duty, you will attain fame, you will save yourself from infamy, you will actually enjoy the kingdom, etc. So he gave him the first level that you will actually enjoy. The second level he gave, you should do it as a matter of duty. The third level he gave him of knowledge that it's a dharma kshetra. It's you'll be fighting on the grounds of dharma, right? So intellectually he gave, and then finally he gave that you should fight because I am asking you to fight. Surrender unto me, and I shall save you from all kinds of sins, right? And that's how there is a progression, right? And so Krishna answering in Bhagavad Gita, giving also in between this concept of mind, right? How to control the mind, because at that point in time, Arjuna was in such a stress because his mind was just not allowing him to function, right? There are so many people who are, very, very talented, right? Very, very talented, very intelligent. But the true test of talent and intelligence is when you have to work under pressure, right? So a child may be super intelligent, but at the time of exams, he might be such an anxiety कि अरे कुछ लिख ही नहीं पा रहे, right? Why Sachin Tendulkar is world famous? बाकी सारे भी बहुत सारे batsmen हैं, right? Or Dhoni for that matter. Why is he famous? They are famous because they are famous for keeping their cool. In times of tremendous pressure, India Pakistan match, right? Everybody is expecting Sachin to hit a century. He has so much pressure on him, right? But still he is able to keep his cool. Okay, I think someone is unmuted. Okay. So he's able to keep his cool and perform under pressure consistently. That's the true mark of someone who's having some sort of control over his mind and not giving into the emotions at that point in time, right? So that's what was happening to Arjuna, and therefore Krishna is describing about the mind as well. He's giving him so many different ways and different levels as well. Does that answer your question? Okay. Any other thoughts or comments or questions? What was the question? As we discussed yesterday about difference between body and soul, I want to know why Lord Krishna mentioned it in the Bhagavad Gita. Okay. So I'll just take one question from yesterday's session. I think it was posted on the whiteboard. Krishna is starting with the lesson of difference between body and soul. The question was, why was it mentioned in the beginning? So it was mentioned in the beginning because Arjuna was, in great stress and anxiety and lamenting that, how can I fight with them, right? How can I kill somebody who's worshipable for me, like my Guru Dronacharya or my Pitamaha Bhishma? So Krishna had to explain the science that, they're not these bodies, but they're souls. At the end of the day, you won't be killing them ultimately. And in fact, it's better, it's good for them. They'll be getting on new bodies, which will be even more younger and more energetic, etc. Like that. So he started explaining from this angle. Plus, Arjuna, he was talking very learned words, right? He gave, reasons like compassion, enjoyment, Varna Shankara, so many other things. He was actually quoting from scriptures, right? So Krishna then started like, you're speaking learned words, but you're behaving like an anarya. Anarya means someone who doesn't know the meaning of life, someone who doesn't understand that he's not this body but the soul. And for a Kshatriya, right, an opportunity to fight on the side of dharma is the greatest thing. Even to die on the battlefield like that is like opening the doors to heaven, like that. So why was Arjuna, cowering away from that or not, wanting to fight, etc. was Krishna's first question. Anarya Jushtama Savargyam. Like, this is not befitting an Arya, right? Someone who understands the value of life, right? So then, therefore, he instructed him again in the basic science, and that is the most basic science, that we are not this body, but that's like ABCD, right? So he started like on that level. And again, why he started on that level? Because we are on that level, right? So through Arjuna, he's instructing us. So if Krishna did not reveal, we won't even know that we are not this body but the soul. And there are so many philosophers, so many scientists, after lifetime of research, some might come close to a conclusion that yes, we are something more than the body. And you can go and read, actually, there are so many of them in Europe and so many other places, Greek philosophers and so many different, great minds, right? So after so much of observation, these are called as jnanis. After so much of observing the nature, right? These are the kind of people who would sit by the seashore and observe a lightning, right? And just watch how the plant grows for days on end, right? Such kind of people, after lifetime of a study, like after doing 40, 50 years of study, might come to close to a conclusion that we are more than something more than this body, or we are soul, whatever, right? But here, as an ABC, we are given by the mercy of Krishna that yes, we are not this body or soul, right? So we don't need to do a extensive 40, 50-year research to get to this point, right? We can actually start with this point. So thank you for that question. Who was it from? Acha, it was anonymous. Okay. You want to add? Please. यहाँ पे आके बोल लो वरना मेरे को एक second. Let me go on mute then. Yeah. Please add.
So also, Krishna speaking about the difference between body and soul, because as Praji said that we are on the bodily platform. So what happened with Arjun was, because he saw his own relatives, and who are relatives after all. Like there was a question yesterday, will our family members and relatives, do we have a relationship with them from the past lives? Is it going to continue in the future? Things like that. So we need to understand that body is temporary, and the relationships that the body has is also temporary. Like I can give a quick example. When a doctor is performing an operation or surgery, he may not have a problem, but the day he realizes that he has to work on his own relative, maybe his own child, and perform a surgery on his own child, it might just happen that the doctor might, his hands might shiver, and he may not be very calm and perform the operation. Why? Because there is a relationship he can immediately understand, oh, this is my own child, nothing should go wrong. So because of that bodily identification, eh, you know the mind starts working differently. So was the case for Arjuna also. Had it not been his own relatives, he wouldn't have thought like that. But because they were his relatives, he started working on the bodily platform and staying away from his duty as a Kshatriya. So it was important to bring out the idea of the soul and understand that we are actually all spirit souls, and bodily relationships are actually temporary. And therefore, we need to elevate ourselves, because it's one thing to know that we are the soul, another thing to act on that platform, right? So that's just one thing that I wanted to add.
And not that we have to just a word of caution here, not that now I understood I'm a soul, ghar pe ja karke, oh mom, dad, oh brothers and sisters, you're no one. Not that we do that. So it's not this idea is not to tell you that don't have love and affection for your relatives. You should have, right? In fact, when Abhimanyu died, even after hearing the Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna cried, right? But there's a difference between affection and attachment. So Krishna is instructing Arjuna in Bhagavad Gita and instructing us through him that we should not get attached. Attachment means I am unable to perform my duties, right? Whereas Arjuna, although he had a lot of affection for Abhimanyu, because of which he was crying after he passed away, but he could still continue fighting and perform his duties, right? So that's the difference between affection and attachment. So it's okay to have affection. It's great to have affection, but not attachment. Yeah. All right. So I think before moving on to the next, should we take a 5-minute break, or everyone's good